Hello everybody, Chocolate Guy here, and welcome back to my list of the top 5 worst and best SpongeBob Season 4 episodes. In this video, I will be discussing my number 3 worst and best episode picks. If you haven't seen the previous parts of this list, I suggest you do so first. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos similar to this in the future. Also, comment down below on what you thought of the episodes in this video, and what you think will be higher on this list, along with what your own list would be. A great way to get this video spread around through YouTube is through commenting and interaction, so it would really help a lot. Lastly, links to other videos on this channel, along with other parts in this series, and the music I used in this video will be in the description below. And with all that said, let's jump right back into the list. Oh god, this episode. Look, this isn't the worst SpongeBob episode by a long shot, but I struggle the most trying to figure out what this episode is trying to accomplish or convey. This episode is about SpongeBob getting a wig and people making fun of him for it because it's weird. Well, some people actually make fun of him for it because it's disgusting, but it's not disgusting in every scene. And some people get mad at him for blocking a movie screen with it, which is a legitimate thing to call someone out for, but it's treated as the same thing the two other complaints were. And this is the episode's biggest issue. It's just SpongeBob going around and getting crapped on or laughed at for his wig, for whatever reason the episode wants, and treats all of them like they're the same level of terribleness. So you can't tell what the episode is trying to promote. If SpongeBob is being told to get rid of his wig because it's stupid, then that's wrong. But if it's disgusting and a hazard to everyone else, then yeah, sure. But both of these things are not the same. I want to feel bad for SpongeBob, but he is wearing a disgusting wig while cooking other people's food. And having a really obnoxiously tall wig on while watching a movie blocking other people's view. But I can't be against SpongeBob either, because he literally gets made fun of just because the wig is quote-unquote funny, even though it's not that weird compared to anything else in this show. This is a show about a cartoon sponge. He doesn't look that weird with a wig like this on. So this episode doesn't really say or do anything except be really confused and a mean-spirited mess. It takes two different complaints that have nothing to do with each other and acts like they're the same thing, making the plot just so frustrating and nonsensical. And then SpongeBob does give it up at the end because it's not cool. So I guess they do pick a position in this episode, which is the worst one to pick. God damn, this episode is so incompetent. But it's still so underdeveloped that it really doesn't mean anything. But that's how it comes across with its messaging. Look, the story of SpongeBob getting a wig and then being forced to give it up for any reason is kind of a dumb plot that has nothing to it, and doesn't have much joke potential because of that. But the fact that they try to take two very different ideas and tell two totally different sets of jokes, and both are just so bland and repetitive, and some are just downright mean-spirited, is awful. And the main problem is that this wig isn't funny. Haha, this wig is weird is not a joke. Well, other jokes are just so gross. Like the joke about his wig having all these termites in it. There's really nothing here. The episode doesn't convey anything except confusion and meanness, to the point where there just isn't enough of a story or jokes to fit the episode. So we have a B-plot with the original owner of the wig and his troubles after losing it. And it's so dumb, and it might honestly be worse than the SpongeBob stuff. Who cares where this wig came from? Who cares what happens to the band after the fact? It just amounts to these band members being a jerk to this dude about losing his wig, even though they're the reason it's gone. What is this episode's problem? What is the point? Why is everybody in this episode such a jerk or so stupid? And I mean everybody. SpongeBob is more dumb and naive than usual, and even Sandy is kind of a jerk here. Why would she of all people find this wig so funny? Why would she push SpongeBob to get rid of it? So the characters aren't even in character here. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I've already established this episode is nonsense, so I'll end the section with this. The ending is just one of the worst, honestly. After all that has happened, this episode decides to be about being involved with trends before they were cool, as the wigs start to take off after SpongeBob gets rid of his, and it's so dumb. Especially the interaction SpongeBob has with the fish who made fun of him earlier. Like I said though, this isn't the worst episode ever, as there were a few jokes I did like, but that is it. And they're so minor that I don't even really want to talk about them. This episode has no idea what it wants to do, and is so mean-spirited through and through, and I can't really get invested in SpongeBob's story because this episode has no substance, and SpongeBob is also really inconsiderate of things. There's just nothing to latch onto, there's just nothing to enjoy. This episode is a disaster, and the more I think about it, the more I want to put it higher, but even a couple of decent jokes does put you above the next two episodes, because they are truly some of the worst. Oh boy, here we go. Now this is an episode I'm guessing everybody expected to be number one. And while it is a great episode, and season 4 didn't have a lot of those, my top 3 were all incredibly strong and very close in quality. I could have given number 1 to literally any of those 3 episodes, they were that close. In the end, Krusty Towers ended up here. Krusty Towers, however, is still a fantastic episode that can go toe-to-toe with a lot of episodes in the first 3 seasons, and that's honestly what makes it so great. This is the only episode of the season that doesn't feel like a season 4 episode, but instead a seasons 1 through 3 one. From just the sheer amount of jokes and how funny they are, to how the episode is paced and structured. The episode has such a simple concept of Mr. Krabs opening a hotel, and the rest of the episode are just jokes that ensue. They get so much out of the concept, and I laughed harder here than nearly any other episode of the season. But on top of that, there's really no story. Sure, the dynamic kind of changes once Squidward quits, but there really isn't that much of a story, and it's all just kind of focused on jokes even with that, which is fine. While I appreciate when a SpongeBob episode can do more than just tell jokes, a lot of the time it can't, and the fact that it doesn't even try is a perfectly good thing when the jokes are just this good, and the episode just uses everything it has to tell such funny jokes. And when this season tries so hard to do more than that and fails, just having an episode be a simple setup to some of the best laughs is remarkably refreshing, but also classic feeling when you're watching the seasons all the way through. I don't need to get into individual jokes because they're pretty popular ones and the reason this episode is so beloved and great, but I will talk about a few. This episode uses its concept and location to get as many jokes as possible in so many creative ways. Because, along with it being funnier than nearly everything else in the season, the fact that it is more joke-oriented means there are more jokes in general. Some of my favorites being the trunk joke and things Squidward makes Mr. Krabs do, and how humiliating they are. And some of the stuff that Patrick makes Squidward do is also pretty funny. So this is just a great episode that stands out amongst the season for being very different by returning to the show's roots in a way, and doing an excellent job at that. I will say what did push me to put this episode at number 3 was there is one episode I would say is funnier, and 2 episodes above this that use season 4's more hit or miss elements to their fullest advantage at their best to create something more interesting. But this is still a very strong episode, and I understand why many people would put it at number 1. We still have 2 more to go.